pick up this headset, and as you put it on, the world transforms around you. You're inside the cockpit of your ship. The ship's engines hum beneath you. You look to the left and take in the view of the planet you're orbiting. And for a moment, all of this feels real. Star Citizen in stunning VR. Some of us have dreamed of this for over a decade, the idea that one day it could feel like we're in the ships instead of sitting behind a flat screen. And for the first time in years, that future of both convincing VR hardware and Star Citizen support might actually be closer than anyone expected. If you're new here, I'm Captain Katarn. I make videos on Star Citizen that go beyond surface takes and rage bait. I try to never waste your time, so if you appreciate that, get subscribed and join the crew. At the Quantum Vegas event on July 12th, Sean Tracy from CIG casually mentioned that internal VR testing would begin within the next month or two. That single line reignited a spark of hope across our VR community. Here's the thing. VR in Star Citizen has been a bit like fusion energy. It's always about 5 years away, and every time we get close, something ends up pulling the plug. Back in the day, a small community of modders actually got a homebrew version of VR running using custom injectors and Vorpacks.
And I am safely able to say I am pretty damn sure I am the first person in VR to experience a solar flare on another planet. Ah! Let me wave at him.
It was rough, but it worked. Then in one patch, a group of VR players cried out, and then were suddenly silenced. All those years of tinkering vanished. When the cheating crisis hit its peak earlier this year and CIG brought down the ban hammer, it accidentally crushed more than just the bad actors. It also wiped out the small but passionate group of players experiencing Star Citizen's persistent universe using a VR headset. Sean Tracy's comment might have slipped past most backers, but for that group of dedicated players, it was a lifeline. Look, I know my audience. Some of you are thinking, why focus on VR now when there's so much else to finish or fix? Tracy explained that CryEngine, the foundation Star Citizen was built upon, has always had native VR hooks buried in its code. When CIG transitioned to Star Engine, they kept those hooks intact. Way back in 2016, Arena Commander even had native Oculus support, but it was later disabled when the game's rapid changes made maintaining it too time-consuming. But now it's back, and I think it's due to Squadron 42. I fully expect Squadron 42 to launch with VR support, and that support to be ported to the PU with all the engine upgrades. It fits perfectly. The entire experience is told from the player's perspective, and games like Half-Life Alyx have already shown how to handle that kind of VR storytelling in an interactive way. Chris has never hidden the fact that he wants Squadron 42 to feel like an interactive movie. Standing next to these actors in VR will be surreal. And personally, I can't wait for the first time Mark Hamill chews me out for being an awful pilot. They say never meet your heroes, but I'm ready to disappoint the hell out of Luke Skywalker. It's the role I was born for. But we don't have to wait for Squadron 42 to start having that VR experience. Arena Commander's offline mode still works with VR, and plenty of players have tested it at Bar Citizens. So when Pimax, the sponsor of today's video, offered to let me try their new Crystal Super VR headset, I couldn't say no. For complete transparency, Pimax is loaning me the headset for this video. I'll be sending it back after my review period ends, and if that changes, whether they either gift it to me or I buy it from them, I'll document it in the pinned comment. All of my thoughts on the headset are my own, and were not a condition of receiving the product. I've given Pimax the opportunity to review this video for factual accuracy, but not editorial content. They don't get to change my opinion. I asked my brother-in-law to be my model for the B-roll and to get his take on the Crystal Super headset as well. He owns a Quest 2 and plays Beat Saber often, though this is going to be his first experience playing Star Citizen in any capacity. I've had some experience with VR in the past, owning both a Samsung Odyssey headset and a Quest 2. VR games have come a long way, but the hardware has always been the bottleneck in the experience. My Samsung suffered from the screen door effect, those visible black lines between pixels similar to when you get really close to your TV screen. My Quest 2 struggled with poor battery life and lower-end screens to keep the price down. Even connected to a PC for pass-through VR, it was still underwhelming. Because of that, both of them have been sitting on the shelf for years. In sharp contrast, the Crystal Super's specs are impressive on paper. It might just be the most powerful PC VR headset in the world. This review unit is the Crystal Super 50 PPD model, which sits at the very top of Pimax's lineup. Each eye gets a 3840 by 3840 display. Imagine a 4K screen but squared using the long edge. That's much more than 4K resolution. Pimax calls it retina level clarity, and somewhere, I'm sure Apple just looked up from their coffee. The headset uses glass aspheric lenses and offers a wide field of view of about 127 degrees. No graphics card on the market can drive both screens at full resolution simultaneously, so the headset relies on eye-tracked dynamic foveated rendering. It sharpens whatever you're actually looking at while easing GPU load everywhere else. The point is that your eyes can't tell the difference. Pimax must be confident in their hardware to ask me to test it with Star Citizen. As beautiful as Star Citizen is, it's also one of the least optimized games you can play. Combining this kind of VR horsepower with a game that already pushes high-end rigs will be interesting. I'll flash my PC specs on screen, but just know, this is a supercomputer, and whatever performance we see here is likely the best case scenario. To play Star Citizen in VR, we're going to need the VorpX software and then a program called VR Citizen Launcher. I wouldn't be able to play this without the efforts of Chachi Sanchez and Gaming Adder, who have been at the forefront of the Star Citizen virtual reality community. The application developed by Gaming Adder took all of the guesswork out of setting up the files needed to play, and Chachi's tutorials took me the rest of the way. Seriously, these guys are awesome. Chachi's channel took a major hit with VR not working in the PU, so be sure to stop by and support him. I've linked his channel in the description. In Star Citizen specifically, the VR effect adds a level to it that I didn't expect. When you run in VR, first person, it feels like you're running for your life in a full-on sprint. It's hard to describe, but with a stereoscopic 3D effect, you really feel the increased movement speed. Also, it might be placebo, but I felt like I was a better pilot. I get distracted in the cockpit easily, which leads to my crash landings on stream. Moving my head and scanning visually for targets like fighter pilots do really kept me in the moment. It was a really cool feeling to be disconnected from the static screen like that. I have to give a disclaimer here. While I can record video from my sessions, it's so much different when wearing it. VR is really something that has to be experienced to understand, and I'm showing you a 16:9 view of what is essentially a 1:1 box. There's a lot missing on the video that I see in game, but I can describe it for you, and that's what I'm going to do in detail. Also, I'm using layers of software just to get to the end product output. We need to use the Pimax software, then Steam VR on top of that, then the VorpX client, and finally the game engine. To make it even worse on my system, I'm recording it too. Natively supported games get a huge uplift over these VR workarounds we have to use for games like Star Citizen. Despite that, the performance was decent. I really didn't think about the frame rate, but it would occasionally have a hiccup that would be noticeable. No, I wasn't running an FPS meter because the true test is how it feels to look at it. Some people get motion sickness from VR, but I didn't have any of that here. We also fired up Star Wars Squadrons, a game that I couldn't enjoy at all on my Quest 2, and were blown away by the experience. The clarity, the performance. When a game is built for VR, it really shines in this headset. I had some trouble grabbing video for that game, so we put a camera in the headset and just look at how awesome that is. That's the first thing I noticed while wearing the headset, just how clear the image is. I have none of the screen door effect I've seen in the Quest 2 and Samsung headset I've tried in the past. I can read text easily and the image isn't blurry. It's such a huge difference. The other big thing that stands out to me is the field of view. Wearing a VR headset is still like wearing diving goggles in a way. You see the world through a narrower field of view, and that can take a little getting used to. After about 5 minutes, my brain just doesn't notice it anymore. My brother-in-law felt that the difference between the Quest 2 and this headset are incredibly apparent. He's never tried PC VR, and there are quirks of the interface with Steam that take some getting used to if you're coming from the standalone VR universe. The aspheric lenses make it heavier than you'd expect, but I'd say it's completely manageable. Other VR headsets go the opposite way and try to make it as light as possible with major concessions on specs or features. Personally, if I'm going to be paying for a high-end headset, I'd want it to be as great as it could be. Neither of us think the weight of the headset was an issue at all. It was barely noticeable after getting it adjusted correctly, and it's balanced well on the head with the straps. Pimax included an optional comfort strap, but I didn't tighten it down. I found for my head shape it was better without it. My brother-in-law preferred the comfort strap, and I'd expect it will vary for each individual. Pimax also included upgraded DMAS audio, and we both thought it was a little quiet at max output. I did like how the audio speakers don't directly touch your ears. To me, it felt more like the sound was coming from around me rather than with earbuds giving you a constant tactile feeling. It's the little things like that that sell immersion for VR. The headset does include inside-out tracking, which means you don't need expensive base stations to get the full experience out of the box. That's worth about $400 in savings over the headsets that require them. I did have a problem with the headset losing my position in the room. I used the headset exclusively in chair mode and would often have to recalibrate the room if I took off the headset for an extended period of time. That was annoying, and I hope it can be fixed with software or firmware updates. It's probably my biggest complaint about the unit. There's also an optional faceplate accessory that will allow it to work with any Steam VR-based tracking system and controllers if you already made that investment. Then we have to talk about the big one. This is not a cheap headset by any means, spec or price-wise. You need a high-end PC for PCVR regardless of the headset, and that's a barrier to entry for a lot of people. The Crystal Super model they provided me retails for about $1,700. Tariffs are certainly playing a role in that, but it's competitive price-wise for other high-end headsets. For example, the big screen Beyond 2E with eye tracking is about $1,200, but you also need base stations and controllers, to which will add another $400 or so. The Crystal Super's price is competitive. Pimax has one of the most flexible tryout policies in the VR industry with Pimax Prime. You can pay a part of the headset's price and get the headset to try it out for 14 days before deciding to keep or return it. I'm not sure if other manufacturers do that, but it's pretty cool for the consumer. Pimax also has a program to help VR enthusiasts when it comes to upgrading. The PCVR Level Up program provides owners of existing headsets like the Quest 3, Valve Index, etc. to get $40 to $100 off their Pimax purchase by submitting the proof of purchase of that previous headset. That's a sweet deal, and you aren't trading in your headset, just showing you owned one. If you use my affiliate link, you'll get 3% off the purchase, which is about $50, and Pimax is having a Black Friday sale during the month of November with additional savings. Add up all the discounts and the price drops a good bit. So I guess the real question is, would I purchase this headset to play Star Citizen exclusively? No. I'd get it because I can play Star Citizen, and it opens a host of other games to me that I might not even know existed. Racing sims, flight sims, VR chat, Half-Life Alyx, Boneworks, and even games like Cyberpunk 2077 have mods that allow for VR play, completely transforming the experience. I intend to play Cyberpunk 2077 using it and a host of other games in the coming weeks. It's exciting to dive into that VR world again, as the hardware has caught up to the dream. Star Citizen is going to be hard into VR, and I want to be a part of that. I'd like to thank Pimax for sponsoring this video. If you made it this far, you're already a part of the crew, so get subscribed and let me know what you think in the comments. Are you ready for VR in Star Citizen? Do you like VR in general? Make your voice heard. And don't forget to check out Chachi's channel. Good people in the community need our support. If you want to help the channel further, there's the join button below or my referral link to the Impound. I'd like to give a special thanks to my channel members. You guys are awesome. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the verse.